On Christmas Eve, the poor mother's daughter says, "Mister, my mum is crying in the bathroom." Snow fell slowly over downtown Denver. It was Christmas Eve, and the storefront windows shone with colored lights that reflected on the wet ground. Red wreaths decorated the street lamps, and from somewhere distant came the sound of Christmas music. But the streets were almost empty. Everyone was home, with family, warm food on the table and presents under the tree. Erin Carter held her daughter's hand tightly as they walked down the icy sidewalk. She was 33, with dark brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and tired eyes that had cried too much in the last few months. The thin coat she wore barely protected her from the biting December cold. Unemployed for 6 months, no money in the bank, no way out, no hope. Beside her, Ruby bounced lightly, trying to step on the snowflakes before they melted on the grey ground. 5 years old, dark curly hair like her mother's, large, curious eyes that still sparkled with childlike innocence. She didn't quite understand what no money, or late bills, meant, but she knew Mommy was sad, and Ruby hated seeing her mom sad. "Mommy, are we going to eat real food tonight?" the little girl asked, looking up with expectation. Erin swallowed the lump in her throat and forced a smile. "Yes, my love. We're going to eat well tonight. It's Christmas." It was a lie. Or almost. She had counted the coins 3 times before leaving the house, spread out on the kitchen table as if they were rare treasure. It was enough for 1 sandwich, a small order of fries, and maybe a juice. It wasn't a real Christmas dinner. There was no roasted turkey, no special dessert, but it was what she could give her daughter right now. "Do you think Santa Claus will stop by the diner?" Ruby asked, full of hope. Erin felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. "I think he already stopped by earlier, sweetie." Ruby smiled wide and squeezed her mother's hand. Erin felt the tears burning but held them back. She couldn't cry in front of her daughter, not today. They arrived in front of the 24-hour diner. The sign flickered half out, with some burned-out letters. The facade paint was peeling, but there was light inside. Erin pushed the glass door, and the little bell hanging above chimed. The place was very simple. Scratched Formica counter, red plastic chairs, yellowish light that made everything look a little tired. It smelled of old coffee, frying grease and something sweet, but it was warm. The heat hit Erin's face when they entered. "Sit there at that table by the window, Ruby. Mommy will order our food now." Ruby obeyed, climbing awkwardly onto a chair that was too tall for her. She swung her little legs and looked at the Christmas lights flickering across the street. She pressed her nose against the cold window pane. Erin went to the counter. The attendant, a middle-aged man with a dirty apron, barely looked at her. "What'll it be?" he asked, his voice tired. "A chicken sandwich, a small order of fries, and an orange juice, please." "Anything else?" She looked at the menu hanging on the wall. Apple pie for $3. Hot chocolate for $2.50. Simple things she couldn't afford. "No, that's all." The man jotted it down without interest and shouted the order to the kitchen. Erin took the coins from her old purse, counted them again, and paid with a trembling hand. She had 37 cents left. That was all she had. She returned to the table with a glass of ice water for Ruby. "Thank you, Mommy," the little girl said, grasping the glass with both small hands. "You're welcome, darling." Erin tried to smile, but felt her chest tighten painfully. She looked at Ruby, so small, so innocent, with that smile that lit up any place, and thought, I should be giving her more. I should have a house full of presents. I should be a better mother. The thoughts came quickly and hurt deeply. "Mommy," Ruby called, "are you okay?" "Yes, love, just tired." But it wasn't just tiredness. It was complete desperation. It was paralyzing fear. It was the social worker's voice echoing in her head, cold and professional. "If the situation doesn't improve, Mrs. Carter, we will have to reevaluate the custody of the child." Erin stood up suddenly, her chair scraping on the floor. "I'm going to the bathroom real quick, okay? You stay here and wait for the food. Don't leave this spot. Promise." "I promise, Mommy." Erin crossed the diner with quick steps, trying to look normal. She pushed open the women's bathroom door and locked it with shaking hands. The place was cramped, with an irritatingly flickering light bulb. It smelled strongly of cheap cleaning product. She braced her hands on the stained sink and looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Her eyes were red, her face pale. There were dark circles under her eyes from so many sleepless nights, and then she couldn't hold it in anymore. She started to cry, softly at first, trying to muffle the sound, but soon the sobs came hard. She cried over everything, the fear of losing Ruby, the shame of not being able to provide the basics for her daughter, the exhaustion of fighting alone. She covered her mouth with her hand. "I can't lose her, please, God, I can't. She's everything I have." Outside in the diner, the doorbell chimed. Nathan Price walked in, shaking the snow from his black wool coat. He was tall, with broad shoulders, dark hair combed back, and some grey strands at his temples. Deep, brown eyes, tired yet kind. 38 years old, owner of one of the largest tech companies in the country, rich enough never to have to work again, powerful enough to have anything he wanted, and despite all that, completely alone. He wasn't in Denver by chance. He was running away from empty parties full of grasping people, fake smiles, people who only wanted something from him. So he had just walked around the city, aimlessly, just to feel the cold on his face and remember that he was still alive. He approached the counter. "A coffee, please. Black, no sugar." The attendant served it without saying anything. Nathan picked up the hot cup and stood, leaning against the counter, looking out the window. The snow continued to fall, covering the city. It looked like a postcard. Beautiful, empty, lonely, like him. That's when he felt a slight tug on his coat sleeve. Nathan looked down and saw a little girl with dark, curly hair, big, scared eyes fixed on him. She was biting her lip, nervous. "Mister." He immediately crouched down, meeting her at her height. "Hi, sweetie. What is it? Is everything all right?" Ruby bit her lip harder. Then she quickly looked at the bathroom door and back at him. "She's crying a lot. Can you help her?" Nathan's heart tightened fiercely. It wasn't pity. It was genuine concern. "Who's crying, sweetie? Your mom?" "Yes," Ruby whispered. "She went to the bathroom and I think she's really sad. She cries a lot when she thinks I'm not looking, but I always see..." Nathan felt a knot in his throat. There was so much pain in those childlike words. "Where is she now?" Ruby pointed to the dark hallway. "There, in that door." Nathan stood up, left his coffee on the counter and walked to the hallway. He stopped in front of the bathroom door and knocked gently. "Excuse me. Is everything okay in there? Do you need any help?" Tense silence. Then a hoarse voice. I'll be right out. Sorry." "No rush at all," he said, keeping his voice calm. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Your daughter was worried." On the other side, Erin quickly wiped her face with paper towels, took several deep breaths trying to compose herself, and slowly opened the door. She expected to find maybe an attendant, but it was a man, tall, expensive coat, but kind eyes. "Your daughter was worried about you," he repeated. Erin widened her red eyes. "Ruby, she called you?" "She did, and she did very well." Erin didn't know what to say. She felt exposed, ashamed. This man was clearly someone important, and her, just a broken mother. Nathan saw her red eyes, her nervous manner. "Wait here just a second." He walked back to the counter, grabbed a cup of ice water and brought it back to her. "Maybe this will help you breathe a little." Erin took it with shaking hands and drank slowly. The cold water went down, soothing the lump in her throat. He didn't say anything else. He didn't ask invasive questions. He just stood there, without pressure, without judgment. "Thank you," she murmured. "You're welcome. Seriously." They walked back to the table together. Ruby smiled in relief when she saw her mother. "Mommy, the mister is very nice." Erin tried to smile. "Yes, he was kind." The attendant brought the sandwich and fries, placing them on the counter. Erin went to get them, but Nathan stepped forward. "Let me bring those over for you." He brought the plate and placed it in front of Ruby. The little girl looked at it with sparkling eyes. "Thank you." Nathan stood next to the table, feeling a little awkward. He didn't want to leave. He didn't know why. He just didn't want to go. "Are you going to spend Christmas here at the diner?" Erin lowered her eyes. "Yes, we don't have anywhere else." Ruby, who had already taken a bite of the sandwich, nodded excitedly. "We're having a Christmas sandwich. It's our new tradition." The way she said it so happily, making it sound magical when it wasn't, made Nathan's chest ache. He looked at Erin, who was avoiding his gaze, clearly embarrassed, and that's when he decided. An impulsive decision, maybe even a crazy one, but it felt like the most right thing. "Would you two like to spend the night with me?" Erin looked up sharply, surprised. "What?" "Nothing complicated, I promise," he said carefully. "Just company. I live close by. I have real food, a Christmas tree, and, to be honest, I was alone tonight too, completely alone." There was something true in his voice, something sad and real. Erin hesitated. She didn't know this man, but something about him seemed safe, trustworthy, and Ruby's eyes were already sparkling. "Please, Mommy, he has a Christmas tree." Erin looked at her daughter, then at the strange man. She took a deep breath. "Are you absolutely sure?" "Absolutely sure," Nathan said, and truly smiled. "It would be an honor to have your company." 20 minutes later, the three of them were in an elevator going up in silence. Ruby squeezed her mother's hand, her eyes glued to the numbers flashing. Erin was still tense, trying to process everything, trying to trust. When the door opened, Ruby let out a little gasp. The penthouse was huge. Dark leather couches, a crackling fireplace, giant windows showing the entire city covered in snow. And in the corner of the room, a 10-foot Christmas tree full of golden lights and shiny ornaments. "Wow," Ruby whispered, her mouth open. "It's the prettiest tree in the world." Nathan smiled. "You can go closer. You can touch the ornaments." The little girl didn't need to be told twice. She ran to the tree, mesmerized, touching the colored balls like treasures. Erin stood still at the entrance, her hands clasped nervously. Everything there was expensive, beautiful, perfect. She felt out of place. "Really, relax," Nathan said, taking off his coat. "Make yourself at home. My home is your home." He walked to the open-plan kitchen, all marble and stainless steel. He started taking containers out of the fridge: roast turkey, creamy mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, French bread, and apple pie. "I'm not the best cook," he joked, turning on the oven, "but we can heat everything up and have a decent dinner." Erin finally moved. She went to the kitchen. "Let me help, please. It's the least I can do." "You don't have to. I want to," she insisted, with determination. They worked side by side in comfortable silence. Nathan heated the food. Erin carefully set the table. Ruby hummed near the tree. When they sat down at the table, Nathan served the plates generously. Ruby ate heartily, smiling with every bite, saying it was the most delicious thing. Erin could barely swallow, not because the food wasn't good, but because emotion was lodged in her throat. "Do you have family here?" Erin asked, breaking the silence. Nathan shook his head slowly. "Not anymore. My parents died 10 years ago in an accident. I don't have siblings. Never married." "It must be lonely." He looked at her, truly looked, and saw understanding there. Not pity, understanding. "It is very lonely," he admitted. "And you? Do you have family?" Erin lowered her eyes. "No, I don't have anyone. Just Ruby. It's always been just the two of us." Nathan noticed the weight in her words. There was old pain there. "What happened?" he asked in a soft voice. "If you want to talk about it, of course." Erin took a deep breath. She looked at Ruby, who was distracted, and then she started to speak. She explained that she had been unemployed for 6 months, that she had knocked on every door, left resumes everywhere, but no one called. She told him about the late bills, the overdue rent, the food running out, and then, her voice trembling, she told him about the social worker. She said that if I don't get stable soon, they might take Ruby away from me. Tears streamed down her face. "They said I can't provide the basics. that she would be better off with another family. Her voice broke. I don't want to lose my daughter. She's all I have, truly everything. She covered her face and cried. Nathan felt his heart break. He reached out and held her hand firmly, but gently. Erin, look at me. She raised her red eyes. You are not going to lose Ruby. I won't let that happen. How can you be sure? Because I'm going to help you both. Any way I can, with everything you need. You're not alone in this anymore. She cried more, but this time hope was mixed in. Ruby, who had heard her mother crying, dropped her cup and ran over. She climbed onto Erin's lap and hugged her neck tightly. Don't cry, Mommy. Nathan said he'll help, and I believe him. Erin hugged her daughter with everything she had. Nathan looked at those two and felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt needed, important in a way that money had never made him feel. The dinner ended with Ruby excited, showing off every ornament on the tree. Erin was quieter, but for the first time in months, there was hope in her eyes. When it was time to go, Nathan insisted on calling and paying for a taxi. At the door, Ruby hugged his legs tightly. Thank you for the best Christmas ever. He crouched down and hugged her back. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. Erin formally held out her hand, but Nathan pulled her in for a quick embrace. I'll see you soon, okay? He said. This wasn't just one night, it was a beginning. She nodded, unable to speak. The taxi stopped in front of an old building. Erin and Ruby climbed the stairs to the second floor. The apartment was small, but organized with the little they had. Peeling walls, old furniture, but clean. Erin opened the almost empty refrigerator. 2 eggs, half a loaf of bread, a little milk. The cupboard had rice and beans, that was all. Mommy, I'm going to brush my teeth. Go ahead, my love. Erin got Ruby ready for bed, put on her old but clean pajamas, brushed her curly hair. The two of them lay down in the same narrow bed, under a thin blanket. Ruby snuggled into her mother's chest. Erin ran her hand through her hair, slowly, tenderly. Mommy, Ruby whispered, drowsily. Tonight was the most beautiful Christmas. Erin felt the tears burning. She held them in so as not to cry out loud. It was my love. Ruby fell asleep quickly. Erin lay staring at the cracked ceiling, thinking about the social worker who had threatened to take Ruby, about the unemployment that wouldn't end, about the bills that kept coming, about the eviction notice. But she also thought about Nathan, about the invitation, the kindness, the promise to help. Was it real? Would he show up again? Or had it just been a moment of kindness? Erin hugged Ruby tighter. Please, God, let this be real. Let him really help. I can't fight alone anymore. On the other side of the city, Nathan was alone in the penthouse, sitting on the couch, looking at the Christmas tree that had seemed so alive earlier with Ruby bouncing around it. Now the silence had returned. The emptiness had returned. But something was different. He thought about the curly-haired girl who had tugged his coat sleeve, the courage she had to ask for help, the mother crying in the bathroom, trying to be strong, fighting alone. He thought about the feeling he had during dinner, of belonging somewhere, of being truly necessary, of not being alone. It had been so long since he felt that way. All the wealth, all the success had never made him feel truly important. But that night, seeing Ruby smile, seeing Erin breathe with relief, he had felt that he mattered. Nathan picked up the phone. Tomorrow he would call Claire Morgan, the owner of a downtown coffee shop. He would ask if she needed an employee. He would find a way to help Erin. He was going to make this happen. Because on that Christmas Eve, a 5-year-old girl had changed everything. She had reminded him of what truly mattered. Nathan looked out the window. The snow continued to fall over Denver. Outside it was cold and lonely. But inside him, something had shifted. Something had begun. And for the first time in a long time, Nathan Price didn't feel completely alone. Erin was in the small apartment kitchen, trying to make coffee with the little she had, when her cell phone vibrated on the table. She looked at the screen, suspicious. Almost no one texted her. It was an unknown number. She opened the message and read, Erin, it's Nathan. I got your number from the taxi company yesterday. I hope you don't mind. If you can, Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the downtown square. I would really like to see you both again." Her heart pounded. He had looked for her number. He wanted to see them again. This was real, but it was also terrifying. Erin stared at the message, not knowing what to reply. Ruby ran in from the living room, still in her pajamas. "Mommy, who texted?" It's Nathan. He wants to meet us tomorrow at the square." Ruby jumped for joy. "Really? We're going, right? Please, Mommy, please." Erin hesitated. Part of her wanted to go, wanted to see if this kind man was really real, if his promise to help hadn't just been empty talk. But another part was afraid. Afraid to become attached. Afraid to trust and then be disappointed. Afraid of Ruby getting attached and then suffering. "I don't know, Ruby. Please. He was so nice to us. And you said he promised to help." Erin looked at her daughter's bright eyes and couldn't say no. "Okay, we'll go." Ruby hugged her legs tightly. Erin picked up the phone again and typed, her fingers trembling. "Hi, Nathan." "That's fine. We'll be there at 10 a.m. Thank you for the invitation." The reply came almost instantly. "Great. I'm looking forward to seeing you both. See you tomorrow." Erin put her cell phone away and took a deep breath. She didn't know if she was doing the right thing, but she was about to find out. The next day, Erin woke up early. She chose the least worn outfit she had, carefully brushed Ruby's hair, and left the house half an hour early. She was nervous, and Ruby was practically bouncing with excitement. They arrived at the downtown square exactly at 10. The place was beautiful. Fresh snow covered the wooden benches. The trees had Christmas lights wrapped around the branches that were still lit even during the day, and there was a movie-like atmosphere in the air. Families strolled, children played in the snow, couples walked hand in hand. Erin scanned the area and saw Nathan sitting on a bench near the central fountain. He wore a dark grey coat and held a package wrapped in colored paper. When he saw them, he stood up and waved, smiling. Ruby let go of her mother's hand and ran towards him. "Nathan!" He immediately crouched down, opening his arms. Ruby hugged him like an old friend, and he laughed, surprised and touched by the reception. "Hi, Ruby. How are you?" "Good. Mommy said you wanted to see us." "I did very much." Erin walked up slower, her hands in the pockets of her thin coat. "Hi, Nathan." He stood up and smiled at her, sincerely. "Hi, Erin. Thank you for coming. I know it might have been strange that I looked up your number." "No, it's fine," she interrupted, blushing slightly. "It was kind of you." They stood there for a second, feeling a little awkward, until Ruby tugged on Nathan's coat sleeve. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to the package. Nathan smiled widely. "Oh, this. I brought something for you." He crouched down again and handed the package to Ruby. She took it with sparkling eyes and looked at her mother, as if asking for permission. "You can open it, my love," Erin said, her voice slightly choked. Ruby tore the paper open excitedly and found a rag doll. It was simple, handmade, with dark brown yarn hair, embroidered eyes, and a blue dress with white flowers. It wasn't expensive or sophisticated, but it was beautiful, and it had clearly been chosen with care. Ruby hugged the doll against her chest and looked at Nathan with tears in her eyes. "She's perfect." Nathan smiled, relieved. "I'm glad you like her. I thought you might want a little friend." Ruby looked at the doll, thinking, and then announced with conviction, "She's going to be named Hope." Erin felt her heart tighten. Hope. It was exactly what that doll represented. Nathan also looked moved. "Hope is a beautiful name." Ruby hugged the doll again, and then hugged Nathan. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Erin watched everything, touched and at the same time uncomfortable. So much kindness was hard to accept. She wasn't used to it, and she was afraid that it would all be fleeting, that Nathan would leave and break Ruby's heart. Nathan stood up and looked at Erin. "Do you want to walk around a bit? Enjoy the square." "Sure." They started walking along the paths in the square. Ruby went ahead, skipping in the snow and talking to the doll Hope, showing her everything as if the doll were truly alive and curious. Nathan and Erin walked side by side, in silence at first, until Erin mustered the courage and spoke, her voice low and serious. "Nathan, I appreciate everything you've done. The dinner, the taxi, the doll, but I don't want to depend on you. He stopped walking and looked at her, surprised. Depend on me? Yes, I don't want you to feel like you have to take care of us. You don't owe me anything. And I don't want to take advantage. Nathan turned his body completely towards her, his eyes serious but gentle. Erin, look at me. She raised her eyes, reluctantly. You are not taking advantage of me. Not at all. I'm helping because I want to, because it feels right to me. Because for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm doing something that truly matters. And as long as you need, and as long as you want, I'll be here. This isn't charity. It's friendship. It's care. It's wanting to see you both doing well. Erin felt the tears burning. She wanted to believe. She wanted to believe so much. I'm just scared, she admitted, her voice breaking. I'm scared to believe and then have you leave. I'm scared of Ruby getting attached and then suffering. Nathan stepped closer. I'm not going anywhere, Erin, I promise. Before she could answer, Ruby came running back, holding the doll with one hand. With the other, she took Nathan's hand. And with the hand holding the doll, she pulled her mother's hand. Hope likes walking with both of you, Ruby announced, happy. Nathan and Erin looked at each other over Ruby's head and laughed, a strange mixture of shyness and affection in the air. Then let's walk all four of us together, Nathan said, gently squeezing Ruby's little hand. They walked on for a while, talking about simple things. Ruby told made-up stories about the doll Hope. Nathan asked what Ruby liked to do. Erin gradually relaxed, genuinely smiling. After a while, Nathan stopped and looked at Erin with a hesitant expression. Can I ask you something? Of course. I'd like to see where you live, to better understand your situation. Only if you're comfortable, of course. Erin hesitated. Showing the small, empty apartment was exposing her poverty even more. But also, maybe it would be good for him to truly understand how things were. All right, you can come. They took a bus to the neighborhood where Erin lived. Nathan didn't complain about taking public transport, didn't make a disgusted face at the old crowded bus. He just sat next to Ruby and listened to her talk about the doll Hope. When they arrived at the old building, Erin felt ashamed. The peeling paint, the creaky stairs, the smell of mold in the hallway. Sorry about the mess, she murmured, opening the apartment door. You don't need to apologize, Nathan said, stepping inside. The apartment was small, integrated living room and kitchen, one bedroom, a tiny bathroom. But it was clean and organized. Erin took care of the little she had. Ruby ran to the bedroom. Nathan, come look. He followed her. Ruby pointed to the narrow bed. This is where I sleep with Mommy. And there, she pointed to a cardboard box turned on its side, is Hope's place now. It's her little house. Nathan smiled, but Erin saw when he looked at the rest of the room, saw when he noticed the lack of toys, the old clothes hanging up, the thin, mended blanket. He returned to the kitchen, and Erin saw when he opened the fridge, probably without thinking, perhaps looking for water, and she saw his face change when he saw the emptiness inside. 2 eggs, half a loaf of bread, a little milk. Nathan slowly closed the refrigerator and looked at Erin. She looked away, embarrassed. He didn't say anything, but his heart tightened fiercely in his chest. After a moment of heavy silence, Nathan took a deep breath. Would you allow me to do one more thing? Erin looked at him, suspicious. What? Let's go to the grocery store. You need to have food. Please, let me do this. Erin shook her head. Nathan, I can't accept. Erin, he interrupted, but gently. You're not ungrateful. You're not taking advantage. You are a mother trying to protect her daughter tooth and nail, and I want to help. I need to help. Please let me do this. She bit her lip, fighting back tears. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't have to pay anything, just accept the help. Ruby appeared, holding the doll. Are we going to the grocery store, Mommy? Erin looked at her daughter, then at Nathan, and she agreed. Okay. They walked to a small grocery store 3 blocks away. Nathan grabbed a cart and handed it to Ruby. You choose what Hope would like to eat. Ruby laughed and began putting things in the cart. Fruits, bread, milk, eggs, cheese, ham. Simple things that were treasures to her. Erin stayed behind, trying to subtly remove some items. "Ruby, that's too much." But Nathan put them back in the cart, smiling. "You both deserve it, all this and more." As they walked the aisles, they talked. Erin spoke about Ruby's tastes, about how her daughter loved strawberries, but they hardly ever bought them because they were expensive. She spoke about how she liked to cook when she had ingredients. Nathan listened attentively to everything. He didn't talk much about his rich life, the company, or money. He talked about loneliness, about how empty the huge penthouse was, about how he spent Christmases alone every year, about how he had forgotten what it felt like to be truly needed. The connection between them grew in small comments, glances that lasted a second longer, discreet laughter when Ruby did something funny. When they reached the checkout, Erin saw the total amount and went pale. It was more than she earned in a month when she had a job. "Nathan, that's too much." "It's what's needed," he said, swiping his card without hesitation. They walked back to the apartment carrying the bags. Ruby hummed happily, hugging the doll, Hope. When they arrived, they started putting away the groceries. The refrigerator that had been empty now had real food. The cupboard that only had rice and beans now had pasta, sauce and seasonings, cookies. Erin looked at everything with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Nathan held her hand for a second. "You don't have to thank me." Ruby ran in and hugged his legs. "Thank you for the presents, Nathan. Thank you for Hope and the food. Now Hope is part of our family." He crouched down and hugged her back. "And I hope you know that. You can count on me, always." That's when it happened. Erin was putting away the last bag, rummaging through her purse to get her house keys to lock the door, and without realizing it, an envelope fell out of her purse, sliding onto the kitchen floor. Nathan saw the envelope fall. He was facing away from Erin, who was distracted talking to Ruby about where to put the cookies. He bent down and picked up the envelope from the floor, and he saw what was written on the front, in large red letters, "Final eviction notice." His heart froze. He turned the envelope over and saw more printed details. Final warning. 3 months overdue rent. Final deadline. January 15th. If payment is not made, eviction will be executed. January 15th, 2 weeks away. Nathan felt his chest tighten. Erin and Ruby could lose their apartment. They could be homeless, and that would surely make the social worker take Ruby away from her. Ruby appeared beside him and saw the envelope in his hand. "What's that? Is that a paper for Mommy?" Nathan quickly folded the envelope and put it in his coat pocket, smiling at Ruby as if it were nothing. "It's just something important that I'm going to hold for her. Okay? A paper that fell?" "Okay." Ruby ran back to the bedroom to show the doll Hope where she would sleep. Nathan stood there, the envelope burning in his pocket. Erin couldn't know that he had seen it. Not yet. She was already embarrassed enough, already fighting too hard to maintain her dignity. He said goodbye shortly after, hugging Ruby and shaking Erin's hand. "See you later. I'll call soon." "Okay. And Nathan, thank you. Really." He smiled and left. But the moment he got into the taxi, he picked up his cell phone and called his lawyer. "Robert, I need you to do something for me. With complete discretion. Urgent." "Of course, Nathan. What do you need?" Nathan gave the address of Erin's building. "Find out who the landlord is and pay all the overdue rent. I want it to be anonymous. The tenant cannot know it was me. How many months are overdue?" 3, and pay 6 more months in advance. I want her to be settled for a while." "Understood. I'll take care of it today." "Thank you." Nathan hung up and looked out the taxi window. The snow continued to fall over Denver. He knew Erin would be angry when she found out. He knew she would say she didn't want to depend on him, but he couldn't let her and Ruby lose the only place they had. And maybe it wasn't time to tell her yet. Maybe it was better for her to find out on her own that the eviction had been cancelled, that someone had paid, and only when she was ready he would tell the truth. Nathan leaned his head against the cold taxi window and closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he had a purpose. He had someone to care for. He had something that mattered more than money or success. He had Erin and Ruby, and he wasn't going to let anything bad happen to them, nothing. Erin woke up early that morning with a determination she hadn't felt in months. The fridge was full thanks to Nathan, and that had given her a temporary reprieve. But she knew she couldn't depend on him forever. She needed to get a job. She needed to prove to herself, to the social worker, and to the world that she could take care of her own daughter. She left Ruby with the neighbor downstairs, a 70-year-old woman who liked the girl and agreed to watch her for a few hours. Erin grabbed an old folder with copies of the resume she had printed at an internet cafe weeks ago, put on the most presentable clothes she had a while, and left the house at 8 in the morning. The first stop was a clothing store downtown. Erin went in, approached the counter, and smiled at the attendant. "Good morning, I'd like to drop off my resume." "Are you hiring?" The woman looked at her with little interest. "No, sorry, we're not hiring right now." "Do you have an estimate of when you might have an opening?" "I don't know, maybe next year." Erin thanked her and left. Next year was too late. She walked to a small market 2 blocks over. She asked for the manager, waited 15 minutes standing up, and when he appeared, she handed him the resume with sweaty hands. "I'm looking for a job, any position, cashier, stocker, cleaner, anything." The manager skimmed the resume, barely reading it. "We've already finalized our team for the year. No openings. Could you keep my resume in case something opens up?" He took the paper and tossed it into a drawer full of other forgotten resumes. "Sure. If a spot opens, we'll call." Erin knew he wouldn't call, but she thanked him and left. She stopped by a pharmacy. The answer was the same. "Sorry, we don't have any openings right now." She stopped by a coffee shop. The woman was even kind. "Look, I'd love to hire you, but the owner cut staff. Everyone is stretched thin." She stopped by a diner, a fast food restaurant, a shoe store, a stationery store. Always the same answer. "No, no, no." Around noon, Erin stopped to rest on a park bench. Her feet ached. She wore old shoes that pinched, but they were the only ones she had that looked minimally professional. She looked at her folder. She still had 10 resumes. She had to keep going. She stood up and kept walking. She went into a pet shop. They weren't hiring. She went into an electronics store. They weren't hiring. She went into a hair salon. The owner looked at her with pity. "Honey, I can barely afford to pay the girls who already work here, sorry." Erin thanked her, her voice sounding tired. The afternoon fell. The sun grew weak in the winter sky. Erin kept walking, knocking on doors, handing out resumes, hearing no after no after no. At a bakery, the owner said he had just hired someone last week. At a gym, they said they only hired people with physical education degrees. At a laundromat, they said the position had already been filled. Erin felt her legs heavy. Her mind was tired of so much rejection. Her heart was tight, a knot growing in her chest with every door that closed in her face. By 5 in the afternoon, she had handed out all her resumes. She hadn't even secured one real interview, not one real promise. Nothing. She took the bus back home. She sat in the back, leaned her head against the cold window, and let the tears stream down in silence. No one on the bus noticed. No one cared. When she arrived at the apartment, it was already dark. She knocked on the neighbor's door to pick up Ruby. "How did she behave?" Erin asked, trying to sound normal. "An angel, as always," the woman said, handing Ruby back. "Played with the doll all day. Thank you for watching her." "No problem, dear. You look tired." It was a long day. Erin took Ruby home. She barely had the energy to climb the stairs. When she opened the apartment door, Ruby ran in, holding the doll Hope. "Mommy, Hope wants to have pasta for dinner tonight." "Then we'll make pasta for Hope," Erin said, trying to smile. While heating water on the stove, Ruby sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs. "Mommy?" "Yes, my love." "Did you get a job today?" The question came innocently, full of hope. Erin felt her heart break. She turned around, wiped her hands on the dish towel, and crouched down in front of her daughter. She held Ruby's small hands and forced a fragile smile, even though her eyes burned with the urge to cry. "Not yet, my love, but we keep trying. Mommy doesn't give up easily." Ruby tilted her head. "Are you sad?" "No, love." Just tired. It was a very long day. Ruby hugged her mother. It's okay, Mommy. Nathan said he'll help us, remember? Erin hugged her daughter back, hiding her face in her curly hair. I remember, but Mommy needs to be able to do things on her own too, okay? Okay, but don't be sad. I won't. I promise. They ate simple pasta with tomato sauce for dinner. Ruby talked about her day, about how she had taught the doll Hope to count to 10, about how the neighbor had given her cookies. Erin listened, trying to focus, but her mind was elsewhere. Thinking about all the doors that had closed that day, thinking that maybe she would never get a job, thinking that maybe she really couldn't take care of her daughter alone. After dinner, she bathed Ruby, put on her pajamas, and brushed her teeth. The two of them lay down in the narrow bed, Ruby almost asleep already. "Good night, Mommy," the little girl whispered. "Good night, my love. Dream beautiful things." Ruby fell asleep in minutes. Erin lay staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the day settle upon her. On the other side of the city, Nathan had driven past Erin's neighborhood that afternoon. Not by chance. He had gone there on purpose, wanting to see if they were okay, if they needed anything. He was in his car when he saw Erin turning the corner. She walked slowly, her shoulders slumped, her feet dragging. She looked exhausted, she looked defeated. He wanted to get out of the car, wanted to run to her and ask what had happened, but something stopped him. Maybe the fear of invading, of putting too much pressure on her, of making her feel suffocated. So he just watched. He saw her enter the building, climb the stairs with difficulty, and disappear behind the door. Nathan stood still for a few more minutes, thinking. Erin was fighting. She was trying to do everything alone, and she was exhausting herself in the process. He needed to do something more. He needed to truly help, not just with food or money, but with a real solution. He picked up his cell phone and opened his contacts. He searched for Claire Morgan's name, his college friend, owner of a coffee shop downtown. He started typing a message, but stopped. No, not by message. This had to be personal. Tomorrow morning he would go to her coffee shop. He would talk face to face. He would ask for a favor, not for himself, for Erin, for Ruby. He would find a way for Erin to get a real job, a place where she could work with dignity, earn her own money, prove that she could do it. Nathan put his cell phone away and looked at the window of Erin's apartment, 2 blocks away. The light was still on. He imagined her inside, tired, worried, fighting against fear and exhaustion, and he promised himself that he would do everything in his power to help, because Erin and Ruby had become important to him, more important than any business, any money, anything. They were real, they were genuine, and he wouldn't give up on them. Never. The next morning, Nathan parked his car in front of a cozy coffee shop downtown Denver. The place was called Morning Light and had lace-curtained windows, rustic wooden tables, and the smell of fresh coffee reaching the sidewalk. It was the kind of place that made people feel at home. He went inside and saw Claire Morgan behind the counter, preparing a cappuccino. She was 42, with red hair pulled back in a messy bun, and a warm smile that always made customers comfortable. When she saw Nathan, she smiled widely. "Nathan Price, long time no see. What brings you here so early?" He approached the counter. "I need to talk to you. Do you have a minute?" "Of course. Sit over there, I'll be right there." Nathan sat at a table near the window. Claire brought 2 coffees and sat down across from him. "So, what is it?" Nathan took a deep breath. "Claire, I met someone who just needs a chance. A single mother, a fighter, who has been struggling alone for months. She's hard-working, dedicated, but no one will give her an opportunity." Claire tilted her head, curious. "And you want me to give her that opportunity?" "I do. She needs a real job, and I know you're fair, that you treat your employees well. It would be perfect for her." Claire took a sip of her coffee, thoughtful. "You like this person, don't you?" Nathan hesitated, but then nodded. "Yes, her and her little daughter, they changed something in me." Claire smiled. "Okay, I agree to meet her, but make it clear that I'll hire her because she deserves it, not as a favor to you." "I know, and that's exactly why I asked you. Have her come in tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Thank you, Claire, seriously. Nathan left the coffee shop and called Erin. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Hello? Erin, it's Nathan. Is everything okay? Everything is fine. Did something happen? No, nothing bad. Actually, I have some news. There's a coffee shop downtown, the Morning Light, that needs an employee. The owner is my friend. She agreed to give you an interview. Silence on the other end. Nathan, you did that for me. I just talked to her. The rest will be up to you, but I think you have everything it takes to get it. Erin felt the tears burning. When is the interview? Tomorrow, 9 in the morning. Can you make it? I can. I'll go. Thank you, Nathan. You don't have to thank me. Good luck. The next day, Erin woke up before the alarm rang. She showered, chose the best outfit she had, tied back her hair, and took a deep breath. She left Ruby with the neighbor again and left an hour early just to make sure she wasn't late. She arrived at the Morning Light at 8:50. The coffee shop was beautiful, welcoming. She went in and approached the counter. Good morning, I have an interview with Claire at 9. The red-haired woman smiled. You must be Erin. I'm Claire. Come, sit here. They sat at a secluded table. Claire poured coffee and looked at Erin attentively. Tell me a little about yourself. Erin took a deep breath and decided to be completely honest. I'm 33. I'm a single mother to Ruby, who is 5. I've been unemployed for 6 months. I knocked on every door I could, but no one gave me a chance. I don't have experience in a coffee shop, but I learn fast. And I swear I will dedicate myself completely if you give me this opportunity. Claire watched her for a moment. She saw the honesty in her eyes, her firm posture despite her nervousness, the genuine desire to work. Can you start next week? Erin's eyes widened. Really? Really? I'll teach you everything. Hours from 9 to noon, Monday through Friday. That gives you time to pick up your daughter from school afterwards. Minimum wage to start, but with the possibility of a raise. Erin started crying right there, in front of Claire. Thank you. Thank you so much. I won't disappoint you. I promise. Claire smiled and squeezed her hand. I know you won't. Welcome to the team. Erin left the coffee shop floating. She had done it. She'd gotten a real job. She called Nathan as soon as she was outside. Nathan, I got it. She hired me. On the other end, Nathan smiled widely. I knew you would get it. Congratulations, Erin. Truly. Thank you for the referral. You did it on your own. I just opened the door. That afternoon, Nathan stopped by Erin's apartment. She opened the door with Ruby clinging to her leg, all excited. Nathan, Mommy got a job. He crouched down and hugged the girl. I know. What great news, right? Erin invited him in. The 3 of them sat in the small living room. Ruby went to play with the doll Hope in the bedroom. Nathan suddenly grew serious. Erin, there's something I need to give you. She frowned. What? He took the envelope out of his coat pocket. The eviction envelope. This fell out of your purse that day we went to the grocery store. I should have given it back sooner, but... Erin took the envelope, confused. She opened it and looked. But it wasn't the eviction notice she expected. It was a receipt, a rent payment receipt, 3 months overdue, all paid, plus 6 months prepaid. Along with it, a small handwritten note in firm handwriting. You don't have to face everything alone. N. Erin looked at the receipt, at the note, and then at Nathan. Her hands were shaking. You paid my rent. Nathan nodded. I did. Why? Why would you do that? He leaned forward, his eyes serious but kind. Because you've always done everything on your own, Erin, forever. And no one deserves to fight all the time without any support. No one. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. But that's so much money. I don't know how I'll repay you. You don't need to pay anything. Nathan, Erin, listen. I have money that I will never be able to spend. And for the first time in my life, I'm using it for something that truly matters. To help someone who genuinely deserves it. This isn't charity. It's care. Erin covered her face with her hands and cried. She cried out of relief, gratitude, and pure emotion. Ruby heard her mother crying and came running. She saw Nathan sitting there and ran to him. She hugged him with all the strength she had. "Thank you for taking care of us, Nathan. Thank you so much." Nathan hugged the girl back, feeling his chest swell with emotion. "You don't have to thank me. You deserve everything good." Erin wiped her tears and looked at Nathan. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. She didn't feel lost. She had a job. Her rent was paid. There was food in the fridge. And she had someone who genuinely cared about her and her daughter. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Nathan smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just accept the help. And keep being that incredible mother that you are." Ruby sat on Erin's lap, and the three of them sat there in the comfortable silence of the small living room. The bond between them was stronger than ever. Erin finally had real hope. Nathan finally had a purpose, and Ruby finally had a family growing around her. Things were changing, and for the first time, they were changing for the better. The following weeks were different from anything Erin had experienced in recent months. She woke up at 7 in the morning, prepared breakfast for Ruby, got her daughter ready, and took her to school. Then she took the bus downtown and always arrived at the morning light 15 minutes before time. Claire was a kind and patient boss. She taught Erin how to make espresso, cappuccino, prepare sandwiches, and organize the cash register. Erin was a fast learner, paid attention to everything, and never complained. At the end of the first week, Claire handed her first paycheck. It wasn't much, but it was hers, earned through her own hard work. Erin held the envelope with shaking hands and cried in the coffee shop staff room. "Thank you, Claire. You don't know how much this means." Claire hugged her. "You deserve it, Erin. You're doing a great job." With her salary, Erin bought a few things she had needed for ages. New clothes for Ruby, a warmer blanket, some simple toys, real food, not just the basics. The house began to change. The refrigerator was no longer empty. It had fruits, vegetables, meat, milk, juice. The cupboard had cookies, bread, rice, beans, pasta. Nothing was missing. Erin hung some of Ruby's drawings on the living room wall. She bought a small vase of cheap flowers at the market and put it on the kitchen table. They were small details, but they made the apartment feel more alive, more colorful. Ruby was happier. She laughed more. She played with the doll, Hope, made up stories, sang school songs. She no longer had that worried look of a child who feels something is wrong. And Erin could finally sleep at night without waking up in the middle of the night with her heart pounding in panic. The routine was working. She worked in the morning, picked up Ruby from school at noon, and spent the afternoon with her daughter. She did housework, played, and cooked. Nathan showed up occasionally to visit, always bringing something small: a coloring book for Ruby, a chocolate, flowers for Erin. He never invaded, never pressured. He was just present. And for the first time in a long time, Erin felt that she had control over her own life. Until on a Tuesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Erin opened the door and froze. It was the social worker, the same woman from months ago with the same grey suit and the same black folder under her arm. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Carter. I came to do the follow-up visit." Erin's heart pounded. For a second, the old fear returned. But then she took a deep breath and remembered. Everything was different now. "Of course. Please come in." The social worker entered and looked around. Erin saw when she noticed the changes: the full fridge, the organized apartment, Ruby playing happily on the living room floor with the doll Hope. "May I see the kitchen?" the social worker asked. "You may." Erin opened the refrigerator, showed the cupboard with food. The woman noted everything on her clipboard. "And the work. Did you get a job?" "Yes. I'm working at a coffee shop downtown. Morning Light. I started the second week." The social worker noted the name of the coffee shop. "And how is Ruby?" "She's fine, happy, eating well, sleeping well, going to school every day." The woman crouched down in front of Ruby. "Hi, Ruby. Do you remember me?" Ruby nodded, a little shy. "Are you happy here with your mom?" "I am. Mommy got a job, and now we have food, and Hope has a place to sleep." The social worker smiled. It was the first time Erin had seen her genuinely smile. She stood up and looked at Erin. Can I speak with you privately? Of course. They walked to the door. The social worker closed her clipboard and looked at Erin with a gentle expression. Erin, you are doing very well indeed. The house is organized, there is food, you have stable employment. Ruby is clearly happy and healthy. Erin held her breath. So? The social worker smiled. There is no longer any risk here. There is no reason for us to take away custody of your daughter. You no longer need follow-up. I will close the case. Erin's legs almost gave out. She held onto the wall. Really? Really? You proved that you can take care of your daughter, and you're doing an excellent job. Congratulations! Erin started crying right there, in front of the woman who had caused her so much fear. Thank you so much. The social worker squeezed her shoulder. You don't have to thank me. This is your achievement. Keep it up. She left. Erin closed the door and leaned against it, crying out of relief, happiness, and gratitude. Ruby ran to her. Mommy, why are you crying? Erin picked up her daughter and hugged her tightly. Because Mommy is so happy, my love. So happy. Did the lady leave? She did, and she's not coming back, because everything is okay now. Ruby hugged her mother's neck. I always knew everything was okay. You're the best mom in the world. Erin squeezed her daughter against her chest and cried more. Later, around 6 in the evening, the doorbell rang again. Erin opened it and saw Nathan standing there, a smile on his face. Hi, I brought pizza. I thought maybe you two would want... He didn't finish the sentence because Ruby came running and jumped on him. Nathan, Nathan. The lady came here. Nathan looked at Erin, worried. The social worker. Yes, Ruby continued, extremely excited. And she said Mommy is great and no one is going to take me away from her. Never again. Nathan felt his chest swell with emotion. He looked at Erin, who was standing in the doorway with red eyes but smiling. She didn't say anything. She just looked at him with such profound gratitude that words weren't necessary. Nathan understood everything. He understood the relief, the happiness, the weight that had been lifted from her shoulders. He walked in, closed the door, and hugged Erin. She let him. For the first time, she truly let him hug her. And she cried on his shoulder, releasing everything she had held onto for so long. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for not giving up on me. Nathan held her gently. I would never give up on you both. Ruby hugged both their legs. Can we eat pizza now? They laughed. Nathan wiped the tears from Erin's face with his thumb. Let's eat pizza. You two deserve to celebrate. They sat at the small kitchen table. They ate pizza, laughed, and talked. Ruby told him everything that had happened at school. Erin talked about her job at the coffee shop. Nathan listened to everything with genuine attention, and for the first time, that small apartment felt like a real home, full of life, full of hope, full of love. Erin looked at Nathan across the table, at Ruby sitting between them happily eating pizza, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt peace. Life had changed, and it had changed for the better, and she knew, deep in her heart, that much of it was because of the man who had appeared out of nowhere on a Christmas Eve and had decided to stay. Erin looked at the calendar hanging on the refrigerator. Almost a month had passed since Nathan had appeared in their lives, a month since everything had started to change, and she hadn't done anything to truly thank him. She decided to cook dinner, nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just something made with care. She called Nathan on Thursday morning before going to work. Hi, Nathan. Do you have time tomorrow night? I wanted to make dinner for you to thank you for everything you've done. On the other end, Nathan smiled. I would love to. What time? 7? Perfect. I'll bring dessert. You don't have to. I was going to make... I insist. Erin laughed. Okay. See you tomorrow. On Friday, Erin left work and went straight to the grocery store. She bought pasta, fresh tomatoes, garlic, onion, basil, and flour to make bread. She spent part of her salary, but she didn't mind. It was worth it. She spent the afternoon cooking. Ruby helped, stirring the sauce, tasting the seasoning, setting the table. Are we having a party? Ruby asked, excited. It's not really a party. It's dinner to thank Nathan for everything he's done for us. He's really nice, right, Mommy? He is very nice. At 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Erin wiped her hands on her apron and opened the door. Nathan was standing there, holding a small box and smiling. He wore a dark blue shirt and jeans. Nothing too formal, but he looked handsome. "Hi, I brought key lime pie." "You didn't have to." "I know, but I wanted to bring it." Ruby ran in and hugged his legs. "Nathan, Mommy made pasta." He stepped inside. The apartment smelled of homemade tomato sauce and warm bread. The table was set with the best Erin had. Simple but clean plates, folded napkins, even a candle in the center. "Wow, this is beautiful," Nathan said, looking around. Erin blushed. "It's simple, but it's perfect." They sat at the table. Erin served the pasta with homemade sauce, full of fresh tomato, garlic, and basil. The bread had just come out of the pan, warm and golden. There was a simple lettuce and tomato salad. Nathan took the first bite and closed his eyes. "This is delicious, Erin, seriously." "Really? Better than any expensive restaurant I've ever been to." Ruby agreed, her mouth full of pasta. "Mommy cooks really well." The atmosphere was light, intimate, almost familial. They talked about everything and nothing. Nathan told funny stories from work. Erin talked about weird customers at the coffee shop. Ruby laughed loudly, happy to have them both there. After dinner, they ate the key lime pie Nathan had brought. Ruby declared it the best thing in the world. "Can I go play with Hope?" Ruby asked. "You can. Love." Ruby ran off to the bedroom. Nathan helped Erin clear the table and wash the dishes. They worked side by side in comfortable silence, as if they had been doing it for years. When they finished, they went to the living room. Nathan sat on the small couch. Erin sat on the other side, with space between them. That's when Ruby came running in, holding an old notebook with a floral cover. "Nathan, look what I found. Mommy used to write things in here when she was little." Erin's eyes widened. "Ruby, where did you find that?" "It was under the bed, in a box." Erin tried to grab the notebook, but Ruby had already handed it to Nathan. "Let him see, Mommy." Nathan looked at Erin, silently asking for permission. She hesitated, but then nodded, her face pale. He opened the notebook. The handwriting was childlike, shaky. There were drawings of flowers and hearts in the margins, and then he read a passage in the middle of the page. "I was only 6 years old when I lost everything. Since then, I've been afraid of being thrown from one place to another. No one really wants me. I just wanted to have a home." Nathan felt his heart squeeze. He slowly closed the notebook and looked at Erin. "What happened to you?" She lowered her eyes, her hands trembling in her lap. "Erin," Nathan insisted, his voice gentle, "you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But I would like to know." Ruby, sensing the heavy atmosphere, went to the bedroom without being asked. Erin took a deep breath. She had never told anyone this story, but she looked at Nathan, at the sincerity in his eyes, and decided to trust. "I was 6 when my parents died. It was a car accident. They were coming back from a trip. I was at my grandmother's house." Her voice came out low but firm. "My grandmother was old, sick. She couldn't take care of me, so they put me in the system. I went to the first foster home 2 weeks after the funeral." Nathan didn't say anything. He just listened. The first family. They treated me like a burden, like I was a favor they were doing. I slept in a small room, almost no furniture. They had 2 biological children who had everything, and I had nothing. I stayed there for 1.5 years until the social worker realized I wasn't doing well. Erin wiped away a tear that escaped. "They put me in a second family. This one was better, more stable. They had money, but it was distant, cold. They gave me food, clothes, a room, but never love, never affection. I was an obligation." Nathan felt his throat tighten. "I grew up feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, that I was disposable, that at any moment someone would arrive and take me away again. And do you know who always showed up to do that? Social workers." She looked at Nathan, her eyes full of pain. "I developed a dread of them, because they were always the ones who showed up to change everything, to take me from one place and throw me into another. And when I got pregnant with Ruby, I promised myself that she would never, ever go through that." Her voice broke. "That's why I fought so hard. That's why I didn't ask for help. Because I would rather starve than let someone take my daughter from me. I couldn't let her feel what I felt, and I couldn't." Erin covered her face with her hands and cried, "I spent my whole childhood afraid of being discarded, and when you showed up, being so kind, I was afraid again. Afraid to believe and to become attached and then have you leave. I didn't want you to pity me." Nathan moved closer on the couch and sat next to her. He took her hands in his. "Erin, look at me." She raised her red eyes. "I don't pity you. I feel admiration. You are the strongest person I have ever met in my life. You went through things no one should have to go through, and yet you raised a beautiful, loving, happy daughter. You fought the whole world alone, and you won." He squeezed her hands. "You are not disposable. You are valuable, important, and I am not going anywhere." Erin cried more, but this time mixed with relief. She felt emotionally naked, vulnerable, exposed, but also free, as if a weight she had carried for years had lifted from her shoulders. The atmosphere was heavy, loaded with emotion, but also true, real. Nathan did not pull away. He stayed there, holding her hands, letting her cry. And Erin realized that maybe, finally, she had found someone who stayed. In the following weeks, Nathan remained present. But something had changed after that conversation. He was closer, more attentive. He stopped by the coffee shop almost every day, just to grab a quick coffee and ask how her day was. Claire already knew who he was and smiled every time he showed up. He took Ruby out for hot chocolate after school when Erin needed to stay longer at the coffee shop. He helped with small things, fixing a dripping faucet, changing a burned-out light bulb, carrying heavy groceries, but he never invaded, never pressured. He always respected Erin's space, and Erin began to see him differently. He was no longer just the rich man who had helped them. He was no longer just the savior who had appeared at the right time. He was Nathan, a good man, present, reliable, someone who stayed even when things were difficult, someone who truly cared. And that scared her, because she was falling in love. She felt her heart pound when he appeared. She felt butterflies in her stomach when he smiled. She missed him when he wasn't around, and she was afraid to give in and get hurt, afraid of Ruby getting too attached and then suffering, afraid of not being enough for a man like him. But the feeling grew, whether she wanted it to or not. One late Friday afternoon, Nathan invited the two of them to go to the park to see the Christmas lights. It was the last week before the decorations would be taken down. "Shall we go? It will be beautiful. And there's free hot chocolate in the square." Ruby jumped for joy. "Let's go, Mommy, please." Erin smiled. "Let's go." The three of them walked. The park was beautiful, full of colored lights on the trees, sparkling wreaths, Christmas music playing. Families strolled, children ran, couples walked hand in hand. Ruby walked ahead, jumping in the thin snow covering the ground, pointing at every new decoration. Nathan and Erin walked side by side, their shoulders almost touching. He wanted to hold her hand, but he didn't know if he should. Ruby stopped in front of a huge tree, entirely covered in golden lights. She turned and ran back. And then, with the naturalness typical of a child, she took Nathan's hand with one hand and her mother's hand with the other. "Let's walk together." They walked like that, the three of them, Ruby in the middle swinging their arms. And then Ruby looked up at Nathan's face and said something that changed everything. "You should be my daddy, shouldn't you?" Silence. Erin held her breath, her heart stopping for a second. Nathan felt his heart pound, beating so hard he was sure they could hear it. He stopped walking and crouched down in front of Ruby, meeting her at her height. He looked into the girl's eyes, then looked at Erin. And then he answered, his voice trembling with emotion. "I would love to make you both happy, Ruby. I would love it very much." Ruby smiled widely and hugged him. Erin felt the ground disappear for a second. She felt everything at once. Joy, fear, hope, panic, love. It was everything she wanted to hear, and everything she was most afraid to believe. Because if she believed it, if she let it happen and then it went wrong, she wouldn't survive. But looking at Nathan holding Ruby, looking at the way he looked at her daughter, the way he looked at her, maybe it was worth the risk. Maybe it was worth believing, Maybe, finally, she could have a real family. Nathan stood up, still holding Ruby's hand. He looked at Erin and his eyes said everything his mouth couldn't. "I'm here. I'm not leaving. I want this. I want you." Erin didn't say anything, but she took his free hand, and the three of them continued walking through the park, holding hands, like a family. The Christmas lights shone all around. The snow fell slowly, and for the first time in her life, Erin allowed herself to believe that maybe, finally, she had found a place where she belonged, a place called home. And that place wasn't an apartment or a house. It was next to Nathan, with Ruby between them. It was right there. The blizzard started without warning. Erin was preparing dinner when she heard the wind howling outside. She looked out the window and saw the snow falling heavily, dense, making the street almost impossible to see. "Mommy, it's snowing so much!" Ruby ran to the window, excited. "It is, my love. It's going to be a cold night." Erin went back to the kitchen and continued chopping vegetables. She was almost finished when everything suddenly went dark. The power went out. The refrigerator stopped making noise. The heater shut off. Everything went silent and dark. Ruby let out a startled gasp. "Mommy!" "It's okay, love. The power must have gone out because of the blizzard. It will be back on soon." But Erin felt her own heart pounding, the dark, the cold, the feeling of being trapped. Memories came back too quickly. Her at 6 years old, alone in a dark room in some foster home, waiting for someone who never came. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of being alone forever. She tried not to show it, but her hands were trembling as she fumbled in the drawer where she kept candles. "Mommy, I'm scared," Ruby whimpered. "It's all right. Mommy will light a candle." Erin found a box of matches and lit a small candle. The faint light illuminated the kitchen. Ruby ran over and clung to her legs. The apartment was getting cold fast. Without the heater, the temperature would drop severely. Erin grabbed a blanket and wrapped Ruby in it. "Come, let's sit on the couch together." They sat on the couch, hugging under the blanket. The candle flickered on the table. Outside, the blizzard continued fiercely. Erin tried to look calm, but inside she was terrified. What if the power didn't come back on? What if it got too cold? What if... The doorbell rang. Erin was startled. Who would it be at this hour, in this blizzard? She walked to the door and opened it. Nathan was standing there, covered in snow, holding a large bag and a box. "I thought you might need some help." Erin felt tears of relief burning. "Nathan, oh, how did you—" "I saw on the news that the power was out in this part of the city. I came as fast as I could." He stepped inside, shaking off the snow. Ruby ran to him. "Nathan, it's all dark." "I know, but I brought things to help." Nathan opened the bag and took out battery-powered flashlights, several thick candles, matches, thermal blankets, and even a thermos bottle with hot chocolate. "How did you think of all this?" Erin asked, impressed. "I just wanted to make sure you would both be all right." He started working. He lit the candles and placed them strategically around the living room and kitchen. He turned on the flashlights. He took the thermal blankets and wrapped Ruby in them. "There you go, princess. Now you'll be warm." Ruby smiled, already feeling better. Nathan poured hot chocolate for Ruby and Erin. The warm liquid went down, warming them inside. He made everything seem less frightening. He transformed the darkness into something cozy, almost magical, with the candles glowing and the flashlights creating soft shadows. Erin watched him taking care of everything, taking care of them, and felt her heart tighten with gratitude and something more. Ruby drank the chocolate and yawned. "I'm sleepy." "Come, I'll put you to bed," Erin said. Nathan helped. They took Ruby to the bedroom, put extra blankets on her, and left a flashlight lit on the nightstand. "Good night, Ruby," Nathan said, kissing her forehead. "Good night, Nathan. Are you going to stay?" "I'm going to stay until the power comes back on." "Good." Ruby closed her eyes and fell asleep quickly. Erin and Nathan returned to the living room. The apartment was quiet, only the sound of the blizzard outside. The candles illuminated everything with a golden light. They went to the window and stood there, watching the heavy snow fall. Nathan looked at Erin sideways. She looked tired, but also fragile, vulnerable. "You were scared when I arrived," he said softly. Erin hesitated, but then nodded. "I was. The dark. It reminds me of bad things from childhood, of being alone in dark rooms waiting for someone who never came." Nathan turned his body towards her. "You are not alone now." "I know, and that scares me." "Why?" Erin took a deep breath, looking at the snow outside. "Because I'm afraid of getting attached, afraid of depending on you and then having you leave, afraid of losing everything again, afraid of being left behind." Nathan took a step closer. "Erin, look at me." She turned her face. They were very close now. "I know you're afraid of depending on someone. I understand, but I don't want to be someone who comes and goes. I don't want to be transient in your life." He held her hand. "I want to be someone who stays, who is here on the good days and the bad days, who doesn't disappear when things get difficult." Erin felt the tears streaming down. "What if you change your mind? What if you realize we're too complicated?" Nathan took another step. Now they were so close that she could feel his warmth. "I won't leave you behind, Erin. I promise." He raised his hand and wiped the tears from her face with his thumb. He looked into her eyes, then at her lips. Erin stopped breathing. Her heart pounded. Nathan leaned in slowly. She didn't pull away. Their lips were inches apart, their breaths meeting, the whole world disappearing. "Mommy, Nathan." They both quickly pulled back. Ruby was standing at the bedroom door, holding the doll, Hope. "What is it, love?" Erin asked, her voice shaky. "I'm a little scared. Will you two sleep with me?" Erin and Nathan looked at each other. The moment had passed. "But maybe it was even better this way. Of course, my love, we'll sleep with you." The three of them went to the bedroom. The bed was small, but they fit. Ruby lay in the middle, Erin on one side, Nathan on the other. Ruby snuggled between them, hugging the doll Hope. "Now I'm not scared anymore," she whispered. Erin pulled up the blanket, covering all three of them. She looked at Nathan on the other side of Ruby. He looked back, and slowly, without Ruby seeing, their hands met over the blanket, fingers gently intertwined. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Ruby fell asleep first, breathing calmly. Erin lay watching her daughter, feeling Nathan's hand holding hers. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She felt safe. She felt at home. Nathan looked at those two in the faint flashlight glow. The little girl who had stolen his heart with a simple request for help. The woman who had shown him what real strength was, and he realized that he didn't want to be anywhere else. He wanted to be there in that small bed, in that simple apartment, with them, because there finally he belonged. Outside the blizzard continued, but inside that room, the three of them slept embraced. A family, not officially yet, not on paper yet, but in their hearts, they already were. And that was all that mattered. 3 months after that blizzard night, life had found a rhythm. Erin worked at the coffee shop every morning and loved the job. Claire had become more than a boss. She was a true friend. The salary wasn't huge, but it was hers, earned through her own effort. Ruby was happy, secure, full of life. She was doing well in school, had made friends, and the doll Hope remained her inseparable companion. And Nathan had become part of their routine so naturally that it felt like he had always been there. He stopped by the coffee shop every day for coffee and to see Erin. He picked up Ruby from school when Erin couldn't. He had dinner with them at least 3 times a week. He helped with homework, fixed things that broke, and played with Ruby's doll without complaining. He was present, always present, but he still slept in the penthouse on the other side of the city. He still had a life separate from theirs, at least officially. Until one Friday afternoon, he arrived at the apartment earlier than usual. Erin was on the couch, folding clothes. Ruby was still at school. "Hi," Nathan said, walking in. He had had a key for weeks. "Hi. Did something happen? You're early. I need to talk to you about something." Erin stopped folding clothes, her heart racing. "Is everything okay?" "It is. Actually. I hope it gets even better." He sat down next to her on the couch. He took her hand in his, nervous. "Erin, it's been 3 months that we've been in this routine. I stop by almost every day. I help with Ruby. I have dinner with you both, and I love every second of it." She smiled. "I love it too. But I don't want to be just someone who shows up anymore. I don't want to leave at the end of the night anymore. I want more." Erin held her breath. Nathan looked deep into her eyes. "I want to be your partner, truly. I want to be present every day in Ruby's life, not just a few times a week. I want to wake up with you, have breakfast together, watch Ruby grow up every day. I want us to be a real family." He squeezed her hand. "Erin, would you and Ruby accept moving in with me?" Tears immediately streamed down her face. "Nathan, I know it's fast. I know you're scared. But I'm sure, more sure than I've ever been about anything in my life. I love you, I love Ruby, and I want to build a life with you." Erin sobbed, covering her mouth with her free hand. "I've always been afraid of not having a real home," she said, her voice breaking. "I spent my whole life looking for a place where I belonged. And for a long time I thought that didn't exist for me." She looked at him through her tears. "But with you, I finally found it. It's not about the place, it's about the person. You are my home, Nathan." Nathan felt his own eyes fill with tears. "So, is that a yes?" "It's a yes." He pulled her into a tight hug. They both cried, laughing at the same time. That's when they heard the door open. Ruby ran in, her backpack hitting her back. "Mommy, Nathan, look what I drew at Shh." She stopped, seeing them both hugging and crying. "What happened? Is everything okay?" Erin wiped her tears and opened her arms. "Come here, my love. Everything is more than okay." Ruby ran and jumped in between them. Nathan picked her up. "Ruby, we have some news for you," Nathan said. "What news?" Erin held her small hand. "Nathan asked if we would like to live with him in his big house, and Mommy said yes." Ruby's eyes grew huge. "Really? We're going to live with Nathan? All three of us? And Hope too?" They laughed. "And Hope too," Nathan confirmed. Ruby screamed with delight and hugged his neck tightly. "That means exactly this. We're going to be a real family." Nathan looked at Erin over Ruby's head. She was crying again, but smiling, and he knew he had made the right decision. A year later, another Christmas. The penthouse no longer looked the same. It was no longer cold, silent, empty. Now it was full of life, color, noise, and love. Photos of the three of them were spread across the living room: Ruby at her school graduation, Erin and Nathan at the beach in the summer, the three of them making silly faces in front of the mirror, Ruby blowing out the candles on her 6th birthday. Ruby's toys were mixed with Nathan's books on the shelves. The doll Hope had a special spot on the couch. Colored drawings were hung on the refrigerator with magnets. The house smelled of home-cooked food. Erin had made turkey, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. It was Christmas Eve, and they were going to spend it together, as a family. The Christmas tree was in the same spot as always, but this year it had been decorated by the three of them. Each ornament had a story. Ruby was standing on a step stool with a special ornament in her hand. Nathan had bought it for her to put on top. It was a golden star engraved with the words, "Our Family." "Ready, Ruby?" Nathan asked, holding the step stool steady. "Ready?" She stretched and placed the star right on top of the tree. It looked perfect, shining above all the other ornaments. "I did it." Nathan picked her up, taking her off the stool. Erin came up behind and hugged them both, her chin resting on Nathan's shoulder. The three of them stood there, looking at the lit tree, at the star that said "Our Family." Nathan turned his head and kissed Erin, a soft kiss, full of love and promise. Ruby made a disgusted face, but she was smiling. "You guys are cheesy." They laughed. Nathan looked around the room. The house that a year ago was empty and lonely. The house where he spent Christmases alone, feeling lost. Now it was full. Of laughter, toys, photos, memories. Of family. Erin leaned her head on his shoulder. Ruby hugged them both. Outside, the snow began to fall again over Denver. The city lights shone brightly below. But inside that house, finally, there was a real home. A home built not of bricks or money, but of love, patience, trust, and the courage to believe. Erin looked at Nathan and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." He kissed her forehead. "I will never give up on you both." Ruby yawned. "Can I open a present today? Just one?" They laughed again. "Tomorrow, princess," Nathan said. "Tomorrow you can open all of them." "Okay." The three of them sat on the floor in front of the tree, Ruby in the middle, as always, Erin on one side, Nathan on the other, and they stayed there, just existing together. A mother who had fought alone her whole life and had finally found support. A little girl who had gained a father without having to lose her mother. A man who had everything and nothing until he found two people who gave meaning to everything. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside there was warmth, there was light, there was love, there was, finally, a home. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next